Mutation. It is the key to our evolution. It has enabled us to evolve from a single-celled organism into the dominant species on the planet. This process is slow, normally taking thousands and thousands of years. But every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward.
Hold on to something.
Scott Nimmerfro, who is a development person at our company, brought the idea of making X-Men into a movie to me. And I confess I knew of it, certainly, but I hadn't read it. So he gave me a couple issues, and he gave me a background of all the characters.
The X-Men are a group who are probably the nucleus of a very, very much larger group on the planet of mutants with special powers.
We are now seeing the beginnings of another stage of human evolution. These mutations manifest at puberty and are often triggered by periods of heightened emotional stress.
The ones that we focus on in this story are all students or pupils or staff of a school created for them by another mutant, Professor Charles Xavier, who is the leader, teacher, protector of the group of mutants.
You're in my school for the gifted, for mutants. You'll be safe here from Magneto.
Xavier has the power to discover where these individuals are. He can project his vision out into the world, and as a result of this vision, he discovers other mutants. The hero of our film, Wolverine, has a skeleton which is unlike any other skeleton that we have ever seen before. It is a terrific, indestructible strength, and there is a kind of animal-like connection with him. He's very famous for the steel claws which extend from the back of his hands.
And he also has a regenerating capability, which allows him to get hit by a truck or slashed through the heart and just go and heal back up, which makes him the most fearsome, I think.
There is another mutant known as Magneto and his group of mutants who do not have the well-being of the rest of the world at heart.
I think what you really are afraid of is me. Me and my kind. The Brotherhood of Mutants.
He's the master of magnetism. He can attract metals, he can bend metals, he can enter metallic forces in the universe and force them to do what he requires. He's the alter ego of Francis Xavier.
In a cliched sense, they represent the good twin and the evil twin aspect of this story. They have been friends for many, many years. They have known one another since they were both young, and both of them were only just discovering the loneliness in which they lived with these extraordinary powers that they possessed. Jean Grey is the personal assistant to Professor Xavier, played by Famke Janssen. She too has powers like Charles Xavier. She can read other people's minds, and she also has the power to move objects.
She's somebody who's still developing her powers and finding out what you can do with, because you need a lot of control, and that's something that Professor Xavier is teaching.
We have Cyclops, who has in his eyes extraordinarily potent, powerful rays which can destroy. For that reason, we see him always wearing protective glasses. Storm has the ability to create natural climactic weather phenomena: winds, rain, storm, sleet, hurricanes.
When she so desires to make a storm or a blizzard, her eyes go completely white to match her hair. And she's sort of the Earth Mother of the group.
The other significant member of the group is Rogue, who can take on the powers of any of the other mutants, can assume them. Also, she can put power of her own into others, which a kind of energy, a kind of life force, which can also destroy. And this is done through contact with her skin. Most of her skin is covered, concealed.
Then there's Mystique, who is very beautiful and doesn't wear many clothes and can transform herself into any other person should she so desire.
It was much more different. It was less cartoony. It was more complex than any other comic book that I had ever read.
And cut!
I think what surprised me the most is how many people who had never read an X-Men comic love this movie. And I think that's the secret of its success. It always had in mind the fans. It always sort of catered to the fans. There's a few jokes that only the fans will get. There's a few elements and things that if they watch 2 or 3 times, fans will really appreciate. But it never excluded people who didn't know anything about X-Men. It explained the world, it explained the characters, and ultimately it played it for real. You know, it wasn't sort of two-dimensional, it was very three-dimensional, and I think that's what makes it a good movie, whether it comes from a comic book or not.
There is a main story, which is basically the gestalt of what is X-Men. But then you have the personal stories. Here is a man who, his memory was erased by pain, which is Wolverine. Here's a girl who has no world. What is to be in this world that you cannot touch anybody, can never be touched? Technically, she may not be able to have kids. She may never be able to marry. You call an ambulance?
I have here a list of names of identified mutants living right here in the United States.
Mankind is feeling more threatened by the mutants, and that's why this war has started. Many times when you don't know about something, when there's a lot of ignorance, there's fear. And when there's fear involved, then people sometimes get hostile and start acting rashly. And it's such a metaphor for life.
Well, that's the threat of anything in life that's different than you are, which is something that we all deal with every single day in our lives. It makes people very uncomfortable.
Now, here's a girl in Illinois who can walk through walls. Now, what's to stop her from walking into a bank vault, or into the White House, or into their houses?
There's a racism between them, and there's an inferiority complex with normal humans because they think that these mutated human beings are more powerful than them, and they are. But at Charles Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, he teaches us that mutants and humans can coexist. Mutants in the X-Men are this new generation of mutated human beings with these special powers.
Action!
There were 2 things that took me a little by surprise when we began work on the film. One was the extent to which Bryan Singer has rooted this in the present-day world. I think from reading the script, I had had much more of a comic book sense of the world and a fantasy sense. I think it's an excellent decision because it creates a believable environment for our heroes.
But the mutation is unnatural. Kelly's body's rejecting it.
Where the hell are we? Each of our characters has unique powers, and so we want to explore each of those, and it's not like we develop one effect and then repeat it a lot of times through the movie. Every power is different, and every page there's a new version of it, a new twist on it. Today, visual effects are much more organic, much more photorealistic, much more a part of the scene, and require the integration of the physical effects, the prosthetics, the interactive lighting, so that it feels like those things are really there. You're really a part of that. And I think Bryan's intention, when we're trying to follow through on this, is to create these characters and these powers as if they could really happen in our world today. So one of the reasons they don't run around in say, the comic book outfits of a bright yellow bodysuit is that might be kind of goofy today and would be not very realistic. You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
I think this is an action-adventure drama. Some people will ask me to scratch the drama, but it is a drama.
You're gonna tell me to stay away from your girl? Well, if I had to do that, she wouldn't be my girl.
And it is action-adventure. That's what is so attractive about this story. You have a real soap opera here.
Hey, it's me. Prove it. You're a dick.